So I came across this post today from this gentleman who said that he and his wife went back to watch a sitcom from the early 2000s called King of Queens. And he said that he was just very, very shocked at how homophobic the show was. And this kind of perfectly illustrates something that I've been talking about lately. If you are like a straight ally, and you've like really been doing the work and like, even if you've just like been in it and you have been very aware and you have been unpacking and unlearning and relearning in like the last 10, 15 years, or you are a member of Gen Z or even younger who was born somewhere in the late 90s. I think people are saying it's like between 96 and 98. Like I just don't think that you quite realize how homophobic and transphobic everything was. Everything, everywhere, all of the time was homophobic. Every piece of media, every sitcom, your kids' shows, ads. Like, I don't think that I can quite stress enough. Growing up gay in the 90s and early 2000s meant trying to just find a way to laugh along so that it didn't look weird that you weren't laughing. And it's one of the many reasons why a lot of queer people would really prefer queer stories be written by and acted by queer people. Not because like, it shouldn't be the best actor for the job, but it's because a lot of cisgender heterosexual people bring these homophobic stereotypes into the stories, whether they think they're doing it or not. These preconceived biases that they haven't unpacked, and inject that into the media because they're like, oh, well, that's funny. It's not. It's not. Like, for example, if you are turning 20 years old this year, if you're a 20-year-old adult this year, you have never lived a day of your life in a country that didn't have same-sex marriage somewhere in it. Massachusetts legalized same-sex marriage in 2004, and over the subsequent years, more and more states started legalizing it, up until 2015, whenever it became the law of the land. During that period, we saw at first small, but then more and more seismic shifts in the way that we talked about queer people, in the way that we talked about the LGBT community, in the way that they were presented, and who got to tell their stories and what kind of stories they were presented. And now, some of the best-selling media and some of the most streamed shows are queer romances and stuff, but it's still so few and far between. And so we notice whenever big box retailers are rolling back their pride displays, or media companies like Marvel, who used to make a big deal about, celebrating their queer characters. This year, their pride books are about straight people, celebrating the allies. In fact, we're seeing that a lot this year after some of the pushback the last few years. Oh, stop centering the queer people. Why do they get a whole month? We're noticing with Pride Month approaching, brands aren't really reaching out to queer people to say, hey, do you want to be the face of our Pride campaign? They're totally fine just making it about allies. Or, just going back to that, safe, love is love language, maybe in front of something that might look like a rainbow if you squint. What does all of this have to do together? It just further illustrates how new all of this is and how fragile it is. Why it's such a big deal for any piece of it to be rolled back. Our media is a reflection of where the culture is. And if our media, if our businesses, if our television shows, if our comic books, if our everything is just quietly backing away from supporting queer people, we are this close to going back to being the butt of the joke. Anyways, all of the sitcoms that you loved growing up were probably homophobic, and your gay friend that was laughing along with them was just doing it because one, he didn't want to be the only one not laughing, and two, he wasn't sure whether your laughter meant that you weren't a safe space anymore. So, thank you, goodbye.